Everyone, thank you for joining us again tonight for our evening Bible study. Obviously, we're in the fireplace room, i.e. my living room. This fireplace has been a work in progress. It's still not completely done, but I'm not letting you see the part that's not finished. I'm just going to let you see the part that is. I've got the kids here on the couch. You can't see them. That's by divine design as well. And I'm teaching them while you're listening in. So before we get started, though, I'm going to ask them a couple questions. And I told him I wasn't going to, but I lied. So Cade, you're first. Cade, what is it about the COVID-19 lockdown and us not having school that you've liked? Cade already answered this question yesterday. What's your answer? Absolutely nothing, right?
Well, yeah.
He said absolutely nothing. I don't like anything about it. I'd rather get up early in the morning and go to school as opposed to being able to sleep in. So Candace, is there anything about being locked in and doing the homeschool? What have you enjoyed about it?
Being home.
You just like being home? Coleman, what have you liked about it? Yeah, that's about what Coleman enjoys about it. You know, and I think all of us, if we were going to be honest with ourselves, would be like, man, I just wish I could get back to normal. I wish things could just get back the way they were, and things could just be the way they were, and things could just be the same. And I get that. I don't know if anything will be the same after this, but I know, man, just to get back to normal life, to get back, to walk into the office and have 150 kids running around, and people and staff, and I miss all that. And I think we do miss that part of our lives. But how do we make the most of what we have? And so tonight, more of a devotional than anything. And if you would, let's take our Bibles and let's go to the book of 1 Kings. So go with me, if you will, to 1 Kings chapter 17. And we're going to look at a familiar story in the Bible, but one I think that we can draw from even here tonight. So 1 Kings chapter 17. And in 1 Kings 17, we'll begin reading in verse 7. It came to pass after a while that the brook dried up because there was no rain in the land. There was a famine in the land and things were tough. Okay, this was a national crisis at this time, kind of what we're going through now. And the word of the Lord came, okay, unto Elijah, saying, Arise and go to Zarephath, which belongeth to Zidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow woman there to sustain thee. So he arose and he went to Zarephath, and when he came to the gate of the city, behold, the woman was there gathering sticks. And he called to her and said, Fetch me, I pray thee, a little water in a vessel that I may drink. And as she was going to fetch it, he called to her and said, Bring me, I pray thee, a morsel of bread in thy hand as well. And she said, As the Lord thy God liveth, I have not a cake, but a handful of meal in a barrel, and a little oil in a cruse. And behold, I am gathering 2 sticks, that I may go in and dress it to make the bread for me and my son to eat. And we're going to eat it, and then we're going to die. And Elijah said unto her, Fear not, go and do as thou hast said, but make me a cake first, and bring it unto me, and after make for thee and thy son. For thus saith the Lord God of Israel, The barrel of meal shall not waste, neither shall the cruse of oil fail, until the day that the Lord sendeth rain upon the earth. And she went and did according to the saying of Elijah, and she and he and her house did eat many days, and the barrel of meal wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil fail, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by Elijah. So there's this huge famine in the land. Elijah goes and says, Hey, I need some water. Well, that was a crazy enough thing to ask for in time of drought. But yet, even when she was preparing to eat her last meal and die, she went and she did it. But then he's like, nah, bring me a little bread cake as well. Bring me a little naan that I can have with my water. And she's like, Sir, I'm getting ready to fry up the last bit of bread I have. My son and I are going to eat it. Then we're going to die of starvation. There's nothing left. He's like, go ahead and make it and just trust the Lord. Man, this was a huge step for this woman, a huge thing that she was going to have to do in this time of famine, in this time of distress. But what she did was she made the most of what she had. And really, stories like this throughout the Bible are not unusual. We see many stories where God takes a little bit and makes a lot of it. So guys, what's one story in the Bible that you can think of, or a situation in the Bible that we see happen where God takes something small and makes something big of it?
Feeding of the 5,000.
Perfect. The feeding of the 5,000. Coleman, what did God take in the feeding of the 5,000?
What, food?
Yeah, like food? What kind of food?
Bread and Fish.
Bread and fish. How many loaves of bread, Candace? 2 loaves of fish? Or 2 loaves of bread, 5 fish? Or 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish? What was it? 5 what, Coleman?
5 loaves of bread.
2 fish. Isn't there a song like that? You can
No.
sing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. 5 were bad and 2 were, oh, that's a spice. 10
10
were good. All right. And so, right, the feeding of 5,000. What's another one? Can you think of another one? What?
Peter on the boat when he was fishing?
Okay, Peter on the boat when he was fishing. Good. Okay, somebody else. Something little and God makes it huge. What about a situation that somebody has to make the most of? Man, it was just a bad situation, but they had to make the most of it. This guy was like throwing, huh?
COVID-19.
What?
COVID-19.
Well, yeah, but that's where I'm going. But what in the Bible? Like, how about somebody that was thrown in a pit and then he was thrown into prison?
And
Oh,
Joseph.
Joseph, yeah, Joseph. Daniel also, right? Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were taken from home. They were taken in captivity, a terrible situation. But did they make the most of it? Absolutely, man. They excelled in the situation God put them in. Paul, when he was in prison, he made the most of it and wrote a lot of the New Testament. John was on the Isle of Patmos, right? And he wrote the book of Revelation. He made the most of it. Cade?
Silas?
Okay, Silas, when he was in prison with Paul in that situation, absolutely. Okay, so these are areas. I mean, Abraham, Lot says, I'm taking the good land. You know, Abraham, you can have the bad land. Abraham had to make the most of it. Jacob, when he was with Laban, I mean, he was always getting the raw end of the deal, but he made the most of it. And so when we're looking then, Coleman, just practically to make the most of the situation that we are in, how in the world can we make the most of it? And I want to take the Bible lesson that we have here in 1 Kings 17 and see how we can be like this widow and make the most of this situation. Number one, how do we make the most of the situation that we find ourselves in today? Okay, we've got to do what we can with what we have, right? We've got to do what we can with what we have. What could she do? Well, you look back in our text in 1 Kings 17, okay, it says that she was out, the widow was out, and she was picking up sticks, okay? She was gathering sticks, and she was getting those sticks so she could make up her little fried bread, and they could eat their last meal. She was going and she was doing what she could with what she had. She was gathering sticks. So where I'm sitting right now, maybe I just need to take a step back, okay? Look around me and say, okay, Lord, what do I have? What have you put around me? What do I have that I can take advantage of, that I can use for your glory? What can I do right now with what I have? You know, you might have a neighbor who's lonely. You might have a neighbor that needs someone to talk to, that needs someone to reach out to them. And yeah, it's not the best idea maybe right now to go into the house and to do those kind of things. But man, on a day like today, you could sit out on the porch, put 6 feet between you, and you could talk. And you could share hope with them. You could tell them, man, let me tell you what I've heard at church today, or let me tell you what pastors talked about today, or maybe, hey, would you just like to meet every other day, have a cup of coffee, and have a Bible study together? You're taking where you are and doing what you can with what you have. And it might be that. Maybe it's that guitar, okay, that's sitting in the corner. Kids, maybe it's the mandolin or the piano, right? Maybe it is the guitars that we have around here, or the violin. Okay, taking what we have and doing what we can with it, making the most of that situation. And man, this is a great time for me to learn how to play that guitar, how to play that mandolin or that violin. You know, maybe there's a book that we've been wanting to read. You know, there's that book that Coleman's been trying to read all year. He's on page 3. And he just needs to sit down with the time that he has and finish it. Many of you are the same way. You've got a book on the shelf that you've been telling yourself for weeks, I'm going to read that book. And for months, I'm going to read that book. Now, maybe is the time to do it. Maybe you want to read through the Bible in a year. Man, you can really knock out a lot of the Bible in these next couple weeks as we're sitting there. Maybe it's a letter you've been wanting to write to someone. Maybe you want to share with them the gospel and just sit down and write a letter. This would be a great time to do those things. A year from now, many of us are going to be sitting down talking about COVID-19, and we're going to look back on the time that we've had, and we're going to think, man, why did I waste that time? I could have used that time to learn to do this. I could have used that time to write. I could have used that time to start sketching out that book I've been wanting to write, or to read that book I've been wanting to read. And we're going to look back and say, man, time wasted. I wish I would have. Man, take what God has given you. Do what you can with what you have. Number 2, okay, look for ways that you can serve. I mean, Elijah comes onto the scene and he says, hey, I need some water. Fetch me, I pray thee, a little water in a vessel that I may drink. And she was going to fetch it. Man, she was going, this lady's the one who needed served. She was the one who was going through the trial. She was the one who was getting ready to have her last meal. But yet, even in the midst of her hardship, she was willing to serve. She was willing to do whatever it was that she needed to do. Okay, God, who needs my help? God, who can I minister to? Who can I reach out to? Who needs my help today? Who can I be a blessing to today? Who can I help out this week? If you will, God, who around me that I know needs that drink of water? Man, I need to get out this week and maybe just do something for somebody else. Maybe just hit the store and drop some things off for somebody that we know could use it, to reach out and find ways that we can serve, find ways that we can be a blessing to somebody else. Again, it's so easy to turn our eyes on me and woe is me and I hate this and I'm stuck here and I've got no one. Well, maybe it's time for us to reach out, okay, and to look for ways that we can serve others. And by serving, man, we can just show that we truly are Christ's disciples by doing that. And finally, number 3, okay, we need to step out by faith. Step out by faith. This woman had nothing left. And God is asking her to give all that she had. And she had her son and that was it. And by giving what she had, she was even going to take his last meal away. But God said, this is what I want you to do. Step out by faith and do it. And many needs God is waiting to supply if we are willing to give all that we have to him. You know, you see this again throughout the Bible, and especially in the life of Christ, how he challenges people. And when he's going to heal them, you know, one of my favorite miracles is the healing of the blind man. All right, guys, so you can help me on this one. So Jesus was going to heal the blind man, okay? Remember the story, the cool story? What's he do with the ground?
Somebody like spits on a piece of
Yes,
dirt.
he spits in the dirt, and then he picks it up, which is nasty. And what's he make of it?
Mud.
Yeah, he makes mud. And then what's he do with the mud, Cade?
Puts it on his eyes.
Yeah, he puts it on his eyes. All right, so this guy's wearing mud pies made out of spit on his eyes. Okay, and then what does Jesus do? Wipe them off and he can see? Remember? He says, go to the pool of Siloam and wash it off, and then you'll be able to see. The problem was the guy was what? He was blind, right? So I would tell you to get up and walk around the house with your eyes closed, but we don't need that on camera. Besides that, you knock over the camera. But you've walked this route 100 times. If I told you to go to the back door and come back with your eyes closed, you would still kick something. But why would God do that? Man, could God have healed him just like that? He could have. Okay? But God wanted to test his what? His faith. And many times, okay, before God provides, he's got to prove. So many times before God provides for us, God's got to prove us. God's got to prove our faith to see if we're willing to take a step before we can be healed. And time after time after time again in the New Testament, you see this happening over and over and over. So how is God proving your faith in this situation? How is God wanting you to make that step? How is God wanting you to do something that maybe is totally out of your comfort zone? But God's saying, listen, you have no idea the provision I have for you until I prove your faith and see if you're willing to do what I ask. So in these current circumstances, what are you doing? I think God is asking all of us, okay, number 1, to do what we can with what we have. God is asking us, number 2, for looking for ways that we can serve him. Number 3, God is asking for us to simply step out by faith, okay, and do something above and beyond what we normally would do. Okay, and this lady does that, and then what happens? Does she go hungry? Does her son die? No, the Bible says this, the barrel of meal wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil fail, according to the word of the Lord. Listen, this woman had oil that she could cook with that never emptied out. Okay, this was like, you know, the Mexican restaurant that's just totally refilling our salsa and our chips continually. Okay, that was what was going on with her oil, and it was going to filling up, and her flour to make the bread, it was filling up and filling up. It never stopped. Okay, it was continual refills, and God was seeing that happen. That's incredible. Okay, in our house, that'd be like ketchup. You know, the ketchup bottle never gets empty. It's continually being filled. And God did that for her because she stepped out by faith. God's going to take care of us if we step out with him. So our flour will not be spent. Our jar will not be empty through COVID-19. And one day we can look back on these days and say, I made the most of it. I have no regrets. Have a great night, guys, and hope you have a good week.